Welcome back to HTM on the Line. I'm your host, Bryant Hawkins Sr., and today we've got a special guest, Mark L. Taylor. He's the co-founder of Renew Biomedical and Master Medical Equipment, a leader who turned challenges into opportunity and helped shape the future of HTM through training, innovation, and passion. If you're ready to be inspired and reminded why this healthcare technology management industry matters, this one's for you. Let's get to it. We have a special guest with us today, Mark L. Taylor. How you doing today, Mark?
Good. How you doing, Brian? B-Hawk. Everything good up there in New Orleans?
Everything's great up here, man. It's actually really kind of chilly this morning. I was shocked. We got a few more cool days left in there for us. How's things up there? Y'all survived that tornado? I'm about to say hurricane.
Tornado. They hit. We're very fortunate. Just a little damage and some flooding here in Jackson, but a couple counties south of us, McNairy County, got hit pretty hard. A lot of folks that were in the path of a tornado that touched down, but I think they're digging out. But our thoughts and prayers with those folks. But good here in West Tennessee today. It was actually a beautifully sunny day, about 65 degrees, a little cool this morning, but nice day here in West Tennessee.
Great. Well, Mark, before we get deep into this podcast, give us a little background about yourself. Tell us about you.
Well, that's a loaded question, asking a salesperson to tell them about himself. My name is Mark Taylor. I'm born and raised here in Jackson, Tennessee. Went to high school here, went to college here for a little while, played football at Lambuth University here in town before transferring to Lipscomb University in Nashville. Finished up my degree there, a degree in finance and economics, and met my wife there, spring break 95. She didn't like me to say that, but it was a long-term spring break hookup. Her name is Jill, and she's, like I said, partners with me in Renew Biomedical and Master Medical Equipment. And Jill and I got married in 98, soon be celebrating 27 years of marriage, and moved back here to Jackson, and was working in the family business in the restaurant at the time, and had an opportunity to get into medical equipment sales with a friend of mine from high school, and took that opportunity. And long story short, that's where I am today. I'm still in Jackson, Tennessee. We have Master Medical Equipment, Renew Biomedical, and me and my wife live here. We got our son's a sophomore at University of Tennessee, and my daughter is a sophomore in high school. Very fortunate to have my parents that live just down the road from me. That my dad was a local small business owner, and kind of got my drive and entrepreneurial spirit and salesmanship from him. And his name's Lawrence Taylor, and my mom Norma lives right down the street. So I'm an only child. So everybody always asks me, like, why did you base your businesses out of Jackson, Tennessee? My first response is usually, why not? And then further to that, Jackson in West Tennessee is a good place to have a business. We've been here our entire business career, and it's a good community. We're pretty well situated in the middle of the country, about 45 miles from Memphis. So there's a little company in Memphis that does logistics named FedEx. So I tell everybody, I said, well, if FedEx decides Memphis is a good place for logistics, then why not Jackson, Tennessee? So that's a little bit about me, Brian.
Yeah, man. Yeah. All that you said, one thing stuck out to me, man. Your dad is Lawrence Taylor.
That's right. Not the one that played for the Giants. Those of us who've been around for a while, it's back when I was growing up, people would always say, your dad's Lawrence Taylor? I'm like, yeah. They said, really? I said, yeah. And then, of course, they look at me and said, he's not the football player. I was like, no. I got a good picture of my dad when the St. Louis Cardinals football team was still in St. Louis. Got a picture of him and number 57, Lawrence Taylor, with the Giants. It was a cool experience.
It's 56, by the way, too, man.
56. So you're a bigger LT fan than I am.
Hey, man, just a sports fan. When you said that Lawrence Taylor, I said, wow. I know you heard that a lot throughout your lifetime.
Oh yeah.
Well, you mentioned you and your wife are co-founders. How does that feel working with the wife, man?
Well, I don't know
Y'all
any
work
different.
together daily or y'all work
We
separate?
have anybody who comes to visit our office sees how closely we work. We're a true mom and pop. We have a facility in Jackson here. It's a pretty big facility. We have about 62,000 square foot. However, at the front of the facility, I have my office, and then we have a bathroom, and in between, my office, Jill's office, and the bathroom in between. So we share a bathroom. So it doesn't get much more mom and pop than that. So we're fortunate we work together, and we do have different roles, and she has certain roles in Renew and MME, and I've got other roles. And we actually have a couple other companies that we run out of that location, but we are a true mom and pop.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, Master Medical Equipment, I heard you mention that in Renew Biomedical Services, I'm familiar with. But
Yep.
before we get into Renew, tell me a little more about Master Medical Equipment.
Sure. Master Medical Equipment, we started in 2011. I had been in another business and split from my partner with that, and was looking for something to kind of start up here in Jackson. I actually started with a company called Masterfit Medical Supplies here in Jackson. Was already in the physician office supplies space, and the idea was for me to help them with supplies, and they were going to help me sell equipment. Long story short, after a couple of years, the equipment side was outpacing the supply side. So bought those guys out, and me and Jill started Master Medical Equipment, shortened it. And so in 2013, Master Medical Equipment was focused mostly on selling capital medical equipment to basically either the pre-hospital market or post-acute market. So we concentrated on EMS and ambulance services, as well as long-term care, SNFs, surgery centers, anything outside the hospital. We sell defibrillators, vital signs monitors, EKGs, IV pumps, ventilators, all types of electronic medical equipment. Where we sell new and used medical equipment. We call it recertified. So that was kind of the genesis of our business. And so we used to outsource our service. So if we got a piece of used equipment in, we need it checked out or tested or PM'd, or we need some repair work on it, we used to outsource it. Well, from 2011 to 2014, we were doing so much outsourcing as our Master Medical Equipment sales grew that we realized, it's time for us to start a service company. So that was the genesis of Renew Biomedical, really just to start and help us with our existing recertification, PM, and repair business that was basically selling Master Medical Equipment.
Wow. So let me ask you this question. I always ask people in the HTM industry, when did you actually hear about the service side of medical equipment? When you started selling it, or did you know before you got into this industry?
No, I didn't. So in 1999, when I first got into this business, we were just selling equipment. I'm a sales guy. I've been in the restaurant business, didn't know a whole lot about it, but very quickly I realized how indispensable biomeds were, because we were selling defibrillators, LifePak 10s, LifePak 9s. If you got one in and the old CRT display wouldn't come on, or the output it wouldn't shock, or it wouldn't pace right, we had to send it to somebody. And I was like, who are these guys? And I realized, they're the mechanics for medical equipment. So got very familiar with the HTM biomed field at an early time in our career, because it goes hand in hand. You can't sell used medical equipment if you don't have somebody that that can repair or diagnose what's going on. So had a lot of respect back then. I still do for the biomed field, but back then it was really, really soldering boards and putting stuff together. Some of the stuff, some of the older equipment was just. It was. I'm sure you remember B-Hawk. That stuff was big. It was robust. It was not a lot of diagnostics to it. It was really open it up and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. They had the WB Allens and the Radio Shacks where you had to go get the resistors and capacitors. And now it's a different world, but the need is still there. Now, you talked about the two companies where one feeds the other and vice versa. If you had to say, your company, when you started out, staffing challenges, that seemed to be a big issue right now in our industry. Have you come across any staffing challenges? And if you have rather, what's your secret to maybe sustaining?
That's a good question. So MME has always been fairly easy. So we got warehouse workers, we got salespeople, we got uh, account managers, and a lot of people know what medical sales is, and a lot of people want to get into a company for medical sales. With Renew, the challenge was when we started was not only hiring somebody who understood how independent service organization works and what it means, and how we're not doing work for a facility, we're doing work for a customer, and our customer could be an EMS, could be a hospital, could be a multitude of different types of healthcare facilities. So that being said, in Jackson, Tennessee, we have a hospital, the hospital where I was born, Jackson Madison County General Hospital, that had a biomed department. But other than those few guys that were in the basement that were have worked, I'm pretty sure most everybody in the HTM world knows how it works. You get different contracts, and these guys have been contracted by Horizons or CSA or Crawford or currently Agility. But other than that, we hired one guy. We moved him here to Jackson, and we kind of started on a whim. We didn't know what we were getting into. We knew we needed somebody who was able to work on our equipment. But as we grew, the challenges of hiring more people were real. I mean, we tried to hire people in our community. We tried to bring people here from, that had a job with an OEM or another independent service organization, and when we get them here, either they wouldn't like our area, or they wouldn't understand how we worked as an independent versus, maybe they came from an OEM. So all these challenges we had with human resources kind of hit an inflection point in late 2019 and early 2020. We were really having a tough time getting people to come to our program to want to work with Renew. And one of the early things we did is one of our technicians realized that a lot of people we were interviewing, even though they didn't understand really what a biomedical technician or HTM professional was, 2018, 2019, they would come in and say, "Oh yeah, I can fix anything. I'm very talented with my hands." And what we didn't know is everybody will say whatever they want you to hear to get a job. So you're like this. So one of my techs, we're a small organization, 2 or 3 techs at the time. Somebody would come in to interview, and we work at a pretty fast pace. Our biggest market's EMS, and they're always in high demand for getting their equipment back. So one day, unbeknownst to him, he was showing a guy how to do a coin cell test, just kind of showing him how we worked on equipment. I think it was a coin cell and an ECG or defibrillator. And he got called away from the phone, and he just kind of left this guy there, with a unit opened up and a coin cell halfway repaired. So he gets back, and the kid had done it. The guy had done it, and he was like, "Wow, okay." And so he came to us and told us about it, and I said, "Well, that's a great way to test." So one of our first tools for hiring, Brian, is we call it the coin cell test. And what we do is we bring somebody in, and we would make up a phone call, and whichever one of our techs was doing the interview would say, "Oh, I got to grab this phone call. See if you can figure out that coin cell." And if they could figure out that coin cell, which is a fairly simple repair, then we knew they weren't all phones. So that was our early days of getting people in, because I'll tell you what, we made some bad hires. We had a guy. I'm not a mechanically minded guy at all. I can barely screw in a light bulb. But I have done my fair share of printer roller repairs, and, changing out the LCDs and several things in devices when I had to. But we found out not everybody can even unscrew a light bulb. So we kind of came up with this coin cell test as a way to kind of make sure we didn't hire some of these guys we'd hired that said they could fix anything and can't unscrew a light bulb. So that leads to 2019, 2020, late 2019, early 2020. We were right at the precipice of what's now known as the COVID pandemic. We were really struggling. We got a couple large contracts. I think at the time we had 7 technicians, and we were just really, really struggling with what to do to get more technicians that we knew were going to be needed as our business grew with Renew. So it was originally my wife's idea. Jill came up with the idea of let's look into, starting a Renew Biomedical Training Academy. And we will train kids and people in the community that want to learn about biomed and HTM. And we're going to set out and we're going to have this venture that will help us grow our talent. And so the idea was great. Jill had this. We had our facility redone, have a classroom put in. We actually hired Richard Woods, which some of y'all may know. Richard has a heart and a passion for HTM. We call him our biomed professor at Renew. We hired him. He was retiring from at that time. It was it was right before Julie took over our hospital. Anyway, he was ready to retire. And I said, no, let's try this and get you to teach some of our guys. So long story short, after a month of having them on board and us just kind of scratching our heads, how do we come up with this curriculum? How do we kind of create this apprenticeship program that we want to create? It's called Renew Biomedical Training Academy. How do we get people involved? And then once we get them here, how do we teach them? So it was about May of 2020. So pandemic had just started. We're really having a tough time getting calls for a lot of service. And the cool thing was is we had this idea, but little did we know that there were people willing to help with it. So what we did is, first thing I did was called Amy. So I called actually Danielle at Amy, and I said, hey, Danielle, I know you're in education. I know y'all do a lot with Amy. I said, we're really struggling. I said, we have this idea of an apprenticeship program. It's called Renew Biomedical Training Academy. How in the world are we supposed to get a curriculum? Do you happen to know anybody that could help us with any kind of educational, background, or do y'all have anybody on staff that would be able to help us with this? And the coolest thing ever, Brian, she I remember like it was yesterday. She said, Mark, you got to be kidding. And I was like, no, we're trying to get some help to get our program started. She said, we have a curriculum that's rubber stamped by the U.S. Department of Labor for a biomed apprenticeship program. I said, you got to be kidding me, Danielle. She said, no. I said, well, what do you need? She said, we need an industry partner. And she said, COVID's happened, and no, we can't get anybody interested to be an industry partner. So I was like, hello, that's what I'm here about. So everybody can look up online. We're very proud with the relationship we had with Amy. They helped us. They got us the curriculum, U.S. Department of Labor-certified, Tennessee Department of Labor-certified, and the Renew Biomed Apprentice Program, known as Renew Biomed Training Academy, was born. So it was just the coolest thing ever. People in HTM help other people in HTM, and Amy really, really helped us out with that. So once we got our curriculum, we were able to then go and promote our Biomed Training Academy. And Brian, this is during COVID. A lot of places were shut down. You had some factories getting shut down. We were very, very, very fortunate that we had a huge first class, eight folks that showed up. So with our apprenticeship program, not only do you come and you learn about HTM, you learn how to be a biomed. It's 2 days a week, 2 half days a week in class. The rest of the time, it's you're working at a desk, on job training with another CBET journeyman. And the cool thing is, we're able to pay these folks to not only help us grow Renew, but they are learning HTM industry. I mean, it is what Richard Woods does in his class on those Tuesdays and Thursdays are amazing. Every other week, we have what they call the Renewed Knowledge Bowl, and where anybody who's gone through the apprenticeship class can come, and actually Richard quizzes them on questions that are going to be on the CBET exam. So it's just a really cool thing. So this whole genesis of the idea my wife came up with, Renew Biomed Training Academy, is now a full-fledged apprenticeship program. Thanks to Amy, we've been certified for the last 5 years and have produced over 40 technicians.
Man, that's amazing. I mean, it's the perfect example how COVID came and a lot of people was looking at it as a downtime, but you turned that around and motivated you to do something different. I mean, you can really understand when somebody said you build a movement, literally behind the scenes. Biomed is behind the scenes in most people's eyes in the hospital, but that's where the action is. That's where you doing something that's amazing. I've read about what you're doing over there, but I never heard the detailed story. So,
Story, and I mean, it just shows you. I mean, sometimes, and people don't understand this, especially small business owners. And I encourage all of them, no matter where you're at. And it's not just small business owners, anybody in business or in an organization. Sometimes you just got to reach out for help.
yes,
And we were able to reach out for help. And then not only did Robert and Danielle and all the great folks at Amy help us, we had other people. We had the U.S. Department of Labor come in. We had Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development come in. They helped us. Actually, there was some grant money for during that time for repurposing people who were laid off from their jobs. And so we got some money. We were able to pass that on to some of our apprentices. We had a little bit of a grant to help us with restructuring our facility for this classroom. And it was amazing to see all the people when you started asking, how can we help get the word out about HTM, about the apprenticeship program, about biomedical technicians and the incredible career opportunities there are. And Brian, that we had so many people reach back out and want to help. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
oh man, that's the beauty of this industry. I mean, everybody will help everybody. And just listening to your voice, Mark, I can hear the passion that's deep embedded in you and your wife for that matter. So this question here is not really a HTM question, but can you share what is the why behind what you do every day? I mean, you have to have a why because you're not just doing this off instinct. There's something that drives you. And if you don't mind sharing that, what is it that wakes you up?
That's pretty good. It's funny. I send this video by Jim Rohn. He's a motivational speaker from the '80s and early '90s that I was at the time forced to listen to. But my why is why not? Why not me? Why not us? Why not biomedical technicians? Why not? So somebody's going to be out there doing it. And I have a passion for connection. I have a passion for anything I want to get into in life. I just feel like if somebody's going to do it, why not me? So my wife's a little bit of the same way. So my why is why not? We're very, very fortunate to live in a great country like America that you can have the opportunity to, do your own thing. You can start your own business. You can, start a biomed organization. You can become, HTM person of the year. You can get involved with Amy. You can get involved with, your local biomed association. Why not me? So I wake up every single morning, Brian, and I'm very grateful that not only do we have these growing companies, but I've got a lot of folks around me that they're not employees, they're family. So my why is why not us? It's not just why not me. It's why not us? Why not build us an amazing organization that we can all be proud of, that we can, share with others, and that we can do life together? Why not?
Yes, exactly. Now, I was going to say this for later, but since we're talking about it, just popped in the head. You talk about why not and how your business is like a family. Now, I go around speaking to a lot of kids about HTM, and it seems like you're the same way. You share with anybody who want to know about HTM. You share it with them. What you sitting in the classroom right now? What would you tell some freshmen in high school about the HTM industry?
That's a good question. I would first off tell them, I say, are you a person who enjoys working with your hands and your mind? I think what a lot of people forget when they think about technicians is they're only thinking about the physical aspect. And what I get from a lot of my guys, and we do a lot of interviews. I like to talk to my team. I go around every single morning through the shop, and I literally try to talk to as many of our technicians as we can. Some of them are young, some of them are late teens, early 20s, and some of them are my age or older, in their 50s and 60s. And what was unique to me is the younger ones are so surprised that not only are they turning wrenches and getting knuckles deep in a device, but they're having to use their minds. They're having to think about repairs. They're having to approach customer service. And so what I think a lot of teenagers, especially 9th, 10th, 11th grade in high school, they don't understand. You need to be challenged, not only physically, but mentally in your vocation. If somebody's looking for that and they say they are, then I tell them HTM is the career for you. I mean, there's upward mobility. There's all different types of modalities of equipment you can work on. You can go in the private space. You can go in the public space. You can go work for an OEM. I mean, the opportunities are endless.
I mean, that's it, man. See, now you ready to go talk to your first high school, man.
We're very fortunate. So here in West Tennessee, we didn't even know this existed. So we started our apprenticeship program in 2020. Let's get some traction in 2021. Well, in 2022, we had one of our local high school teachers, VOTEC teachers, come to us and had worked with the same people we'd worked in. The girl's name has been very helpful. Her name is Holly Wood, just like the sign, Hollywood, but her name is Holly, last name Wood. She's fantastic. But he was talking to her and she said, you need to start a pre-apprenticeship program for your high school students with Renew Biomedical's apprenticeship program. So we are actually a state of Tennessee pre-apprenticeship program. And right now we have 3 students, 2 from South Gibson High School and 1 from Madison Academic here in our town that come to us, and 3 hours a week they are doing work that will actually go towards their apprenticeship. So it's called pre-apprenticeship. So my wife has an extreme passion for letting younger kids, specifically junior high and high school kids, know about the opportunities there are in the HTM field. So we've been very fortunate. Again, we reached out to some folks, they reached back out to us, and now we have a pre-apprenticeship program for high school students.
Man, the more you talk about your wife, I think I like Jill, man. We should have had Jill on here instead of you.
Hey, she's just as passionate, if not more so. I give her all the credit for Renew Biomedical Training Academy. And I have to do
a part 2 and have Jill come on here and talk about this stuff she's got going on. So wait a minute, this pre-apprentice. I mean, let's slow down. Let's peel back the layers a little bit. Pre-apprentice means what? Just to make it clear.
So it's basically they get some school credit, and there's some things required by the high school, but it is actually, and it's our state does this program where they actually can get high school credit if they sign up for a pre-apprenticeship program and they complete the terms of the program. So basically the teachers come in, they say, hey, we're going to send these 3 students to you. My technicians kind of give them some stuff to do. And it's literally like our apprenticeship program, but in smaller bites, because it's usually 2 or 3 hours a day, a couple of days a week. And if they complete those requirements, they have that they can go on their transcript, and actually gives them high school credit for towards their grades.
Wow. I wonder if that's something, well, I guess if you can do it there, you can do it everywhere.
I don't know. Like I said, we're very fortunate. We had Hollywood from our local workforce development board that she's just been a rock star. And I encourage anybody who's looking at doing anything for education, either high school, college, apprenticeship program, reach out to your local. Every state has some workforce and labor development folks. We have another one, Roderick Wood, who actually spoke with us last week. He's out of Memphis, but he covers all West Tennessee. We just been very, very blessed to have some good people that they want to help. I mean, their entire job is to create more jobs in our states and communities. So I'm pretty sure everybody that is interested in a program like this, if you start asking around, your state has somebody to help.
You got to connect me with Hollywood after this, man, so I can ask her some questions.
She's great. She's fantastic.
I mean, that'll be a great initiative, because I know some schools would love to start something, because when I go speak to the kids, a lot of them never heard of it, of course. And just to think you can get some high school credit for just letting them learn how to work on some equipment is amazing. I mean,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. Jeez. Now, man, you do a lot, dude. Man. We didn't cover so much. 2 companies, working with the kids, working with your school. You got it remodeled, COVID. Where do I want to go next with you? Renew. Let's stick with Renew Biomedical. You mentioned how you have a culture that you built there, and it's a family culture, and that's amazing. Now, I don't know if this is going to pick your mindset a little. When times get tough, whether it's business, and it seems like you You mentioned family, so y'all probably have a lot of personal relationships. What mindset, I guess, principle keeps you grounded? Because when things get tough, sometimes things just go haywire. What keeps you focused despite the tough times might come about?
I think it's my faith and my gratitude. I'll be honest with you, Brian, we had a pretty tough day today at work, had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of external stuff that we can't control. And it's going to be, everybody knows this, it's going to be a crazy year with a global economy and stock markets crashing. But I have had a talk today with somebody who's going through a lot rougher time than I could ever imagine. Both with family illness and some business issues. And I think my faith in God and my gratitude of the daily gratitude of what we get to get up and experience and do get you through some tough times, perspective, understanding that yes, it's tough. Anybody who's out there and is a independent biomed, small operators, it never gets much easier. No life's easy. But I think the way you frame it and the perspective you take, and if you have faith and understanding and gratitude, you can face any obstacle.
Absolutely. Great answer, man. Now, we'll call this the misconceptions in our industry. Like, one misconception is they think that HTM is just about fixing equipment. Now, yeah, see, a lot of people may think that we just repair equipment, but what would you say to someone who doesn't understand the full scope and the impact of this profession? Somebody think, oh, you just fix equipment. What could you tell him to make him understand that there's more to us than just fixing equipment?
Well, people don't realize, they really don't realize, like I said, our model, one of our techs came up with years ago, and we still use it today in Renew, saving the lives of life-saving equipment. I can't tell you how many times we've gotten a call literally at the last minute for, we're big in repair and the EMS field. And we've literally had a helicopter land that was having an ECG port failure on a patient flying over our facility, and us have to literally repair it on the fly. And what people don't understand, that at the end of the day, healthcare professionals without their tools, there's not much they can do. There's not much they can do. And who makes sure these tools are working? Who makes sure at the critical time when that baby's in an incubator, when somebody's having a heart attack, when a person is in surgery and is bleeding out? Who makes sure that those devices, those life-saving, life-sustaining devices, are working not only properly but effectively? And I think a lot of people don't realize, oh, they just sit in the bottom of the hospital, or they sit in their shop somewhere and somebody ships it in and they just tinker on it or replace a cosmetic piece or a part. I don't think they truly realize that most of the biomeds that I know have spent a good amount of time either in the field or under the gun or both. And what's at stake is a piece of equipment that could save somebody's life or sustain somebody's life. And I think people don't realize the gravity of that. I had a little State of the Union address to my entire Renew Biomedical staff. So everybody from front of the house, accounting, to back of the house, shipping and receiving, and every technician, every manager last week. And I told them, I said, I think we've gotten big. We're very fortunate. We've got over 100 folks that work for us now. And I think I was getting frustrated because some of what I was hearing was internal argument, bickering, your typical things in large organizations. You get larger. I said, guys, we've lost our focus. I said, we got to always remember, when we're arguing and fighting, we're talking about a piece of equipment that could be saving or sustaining somebody's life. And it's something I take very serious. So we have a lot of fun in our culture. We make sure everybody's included. But at the end of the day, I told everybody, I said, we are not only taking care of our customers are taking care of patients in their time of most vulnerability, of most stress they've probably ever had, and at a time in their life where they need this device to help them to keep them alive, to sustain their life. And again, it's something I take very, very, very seriously. I'm very passionate about making sure my team understands that.
Yeah, and that's perfect. And another thing I try to tell individuals, you live in this community. So the equipment you're working on could be the same exact equipment you could be on tonight, or
it could be me, it could be my mom, it could be my kids, it could be my best friend. You don't know. I tell people that all the time. I said, you just don't know.
Oh, another misconception. There's no real career path or growth. Some people believe HTM roles that, we're just jobs, but I'm always saying it's not a job, it's a career. Now, can you possibly share what advancements could look like in this industry? How can someone build a long-term career?
I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. So Josh Weatherford. Josh Weatherford came to us 5 years ago. It was when we were trying to hire a bunch of folks for our growth, post-COVID. And Josh Weatherford previously had been a nurse tech, been to some nursing school, had been a automotive tech, ASC certified mechanic, had worked at a factory. Him and his wife were expecting a first child and didn't want to work at third shift in the factory. Anyway, long story short, he goes to our apprenticeship program, right? And this is right when we were working with Amy. So literally Josh Weatherford is the very first biomed apprentice in the country. So he's the first one when the Department of Labor, we got that stamp. He's the very first one. So pretty cool. He's a great technician, great work. Well, after 2 years of working for us, he was just such good work ethic, such good communication skills. He got promoted to assistant manager. So he works as assistant manager for a couple of years. Again, such a good person as far as not only doing his work, but teaching others and mentoring and being a good manager. After he became assistant manager, he is now our depot manager for all of Jackson, everything that happens in our 30,000 square foot depot, and oversees all the technicians there. So there's over 40 technicians here in Jackson. So that's just a small example of somebody who got into our industry and has not only gotten in and gotten their apprenticeship, got their CBET, but has continued to take opportunities for advancement in our business. So I know of other examples too of people who get in the business. Next thing you know, they progress through the ranks of a large organization like, Agility or Trimedics. I know of others that get in the HTM field on a whim, and they go from, say, being a bed repair tech to next thing you know, they're flying around and servicing high-end MRI equipment. People don't realize that there's so much opportunity in the HTM field, whether it's actually being a technician and rising through the ranks of a specialized technician, or just rising through the ranks of the business you're in, becoming a manager, or assistant manager, supervisor. There's so much opportunity.
Yes, you hit it on the head there. Now, soft skills. You mentioned how your technician had to he became a supervisor or a leader. Now, to become those things, how important are soft skills?
That's a good question. A little bit of a loaded question. So I'll be honest with you, Brian. So one of the things that we look for when we're hiring technicians, so we have some technicians that are very, very technical, very good with their hands, very, very love the hands-on work. They love being in the depot. They love, they don't particularly love interaction with people, and there's nothing wrong with that. And not as outgoing, not more introverted. So there's nothing wrong with that. And this is a great career for somebody who wants to come in and learn and not have to worry about, being a salesperson or soft skills. However, that being said, everybody has to have some type of soft skills, no matter where you work, as long as you're working with other people, you have to. But what we look for is when we're interviewing candidates for a new HTM biomed technician position is if they do have soft skills and they do excel in communication and they are good with understanding, and working with other people. those are the people we usually put in a more customer-facing role, like field service. So not only do we have our depot in Jackson, we have a depot in Louisville, Kentucky, a depot in Chicago, Illinois, soon to be opening in Tampa, Florida, and we got a place in Atlanta, Georgia. The people that work in these places are in the field a whole lot. So we make sure that they have the soft skills needed to talk to a nurse, to talk to a doctor from time to time, to talk to somebody that's in logistics and materials maintenance. When you go to a facility to repair on behalf of a manufacturer, on behalf of another ISO, you have to have these soft skills. So one of the things that we try to do is we try to make sure when people come in for whatever position that they're interviewing for, if soft skills are necessary, we make sure not only do they have them, but they're comfortable using them. So very important, especially in customer-facing roles.
Okay, I got a question for you, Mr. Entrepreneur. Now, in this industry, that's also a way you can go as far as owning your own business, because there's a need for that also.
Absolutely, and you definitely need soft skills.
Now, what
if you're going to open a business, because then you got to hire people, you got to deal with customers, you got to deal with all kinds of communication.
Now, let me ask you this question. What are some key lessons that you've probably learned opening up not one, but two businesses that you can share with a young person who's trying to maybe start a business in the HTM industry? What some key lessons you learned you may be able to share?
If you're like me and you like to talk a lot, you also have to have time to listen. And I think some of the most important lessons are when you're actually listening to your customer. Your customer will tell you what you want. Sometimes you just got to listen. So me being a talker and being a sales guy, it's sometimes hard for me to shut up, believe it or not. But I have found the most valuable aspects of communication, especially when you're dealing with somebody that you're trying to do business with or hoping to become your customer. You just have to listen. And it's a lost art. I think in these days, everybody wants to be heard, but not everybody wants to listen.
Yeah, exactly. Now I remember in the beginning, you mentioned that you started out in sales of medical equipment, then you started doing service. Now, in the HTM world, sales and operations, they kind of sometimes bump heads.
Yeah, yes,
sales will make that promise that operations can't handle.
So I have sales reps and operation people that I come between every single day in my organization.
That's what I was about to ask you. How do you tell them that, look, we fuel each other? How do you, as a growing company, how do you view the relationship between the two?
Oh, it's symbiotic. They have to work together. But I hear both sides. I hear operations say, hey, this salesperson just overpromised and underdelivered. They said we could get this fixed and back to them today. That's impossible. We don't have the parts. Then I also hear the sales guys tell me, the operation guys say, hey, they're dragging their feet. They just don't want to get it out today. They don't really care. So at the end of the day, back to what I said with my complaints and what I had told my team last week is just in our State of the Union is, hey guys, at the end of the day, let's don't talk about whether I'm right, you're right, she's right, he's right. Let's talk about what the customer thinks. And at the end of the day, if you let that guide your communication between each other, you get to a solution instead of dwelling on each other's problems.
Yeah. Now you touched on what you mentioned about parts indirectly with servicing. Today's healthcare environment, as you know, is changing. It used to be yearly. It looked like it's changing monthly. So yeah. How do you at Renew respond to this rapidly changing need of the hospitals, the clinics, service providers? How do you continue to pivot and be able to respond to these changes?
Man, to be honest with you, it's getting more challenging. Last year, in the ventilator market, which we're heavily involved with, there were 3 different companies. One went bankrupt by air, and one pulled it out of the market. Medtronic just totally pulled out of the market. You got Philips, who had some issues and pulled out of the U.S. market. You have to be nimble. You have to be also, you've got to read. You've got to go to, I suggest people, looking online, get on LinkedIn, following people like yourself, get information on your industry, understand what's going on around you, understand what's important for, tariffs. I don't know what this is going to do to medical equipment parts. I'm trying to read up, what does this mean for my customers? So I think the biggest challenge is just to, in order to stay ahead of the game, you have to be vigilant, and you have to reach out to others. You have to communicate, and you have to read.
That's it, man. I tell people all the time, just because you clocked out at work doesn't mean you clock out.
Heard
You
that.
still have to continue learning, because some things you can't learn at work. You have to take a little time at home to stay ahead, because it's changing. Just like AI is coming into the industry at a high speed. Matter of fact, what your thoughts is about AI? How you feel about AI?
Well, we have our own asset management program, which is really our own homegrown program for CMMS, because we couldn't find any independent service organization. And a lot of people know the big players, Nuvolo and whatnot, but they're made for more for hospital work order management and hospital asset management. So us as an independent service organization that does field service, that does depot work. That also, we've always had the desire for our customers to see what's going on with their assets, to see what's being repaired, when the next repair is. So a few years ago, about 3 years ago, we started our own CMMS, literally from scratch, because we kept buying things out of the box and trying to tweak it. So it's called RAMS, Renew Asset Management System. The cool thing about RAMS, we're starting RAMS 3.0 right now. And it's funny, I had a talk with Jeff Shaw from Trimedics about this when he was down a few weeks ago, and I was showing him our system, and everybody's integrated some way. We're going to have a piece of AI integrated that, if you use our RAM software and your customer buyers, we're not only going to show you what we've done to your equipment, we're going to tell you what the true cost of ownership is of your equipment, when the next PM is due, what's the percentage factors for this piece of equipment breaking down the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And all this is made possible by AI. And it's interesting. I read an article in 24/7 yesterday, the day before, just is all AI in our industry going to be good or bad? I still think I'm a positive guy, Brian. I'm really positive. I think it's going to be positive, but I think there could be some things that AI does that we need to monitor. So I'm cautiously optimistic that AI is going to make healthcare technology management not only jobs easier, but hopefully more efficient and also more precise. So I'm hopeful, because everybody knows this. Everybody in our industry knows there's an issue where people are aging out. There's not enough people coming into the field. We need more technicians. And one way to get around the need for more technicians is hopefully a good technology like AI that can help us better solve the issues and repairs that we're facing. I'll give you a perfect example. So one of the first things we did with our AI and RAMs was to take a service manuals of every device that we had service manuals for in our entire shop. And we're talking hundreds of devices. So we fed all these service manuals in, scanned them in, put them into the AI. And now and this is about 2 months ago, now when one of our techs queries in our RAM software a repair, not only will it read the service manual and tell what is needed, it will also, based on our service history, tell you what parts and what tools you're going to need for the repair. I mean, how cool is that?
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So RAMs right now, my technicians are typing in, whatever repair it is, and the AI will respond back for this repair. Estimated time, 30 minutes. You're going to need 2 wrenches and a nut driver, and you're going to need this thermal print head and this board, and that's it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I tell people AI is Google on steroids. It searches the internet to get its information, whether it's accurate or not. That's where you come in.
Exactly,
It's
and
just
that's
like
what
the CMMS, garbage in, garbage out. So
it is 100%. But I'm very optimistic on the future of AI and its positive impact on the HTM world. Very, very confident.
Oh, it will have to me. I'm like you. I'm always thinking positive. I think it's going to be a great, huge impact. You're going to be able to work more efficient. They even starting to hire chief AI officers to run companies. Like GE has one, and a few other large companies have a chief AI officer. So it's not going anywhere. It's changing, and I mean, every time you look up, there's a new app. So they got like 30 of them right now, I think. So it's not going anywhere.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love playing with it. Mark, I got one question I like to ask all of my folks that's on the show. The HTM world is listening to us. What advice, it's going to be a twofold question. What
Okay.
advice would you give first to a young person that's new in this industry? Being you went through that stage with almost all of your employees sound like. So what advice would you give a BMed one first day on a job? Advice would you give him or her?
I would say to this person, him or her, I would say, listen, this is an incredible field if you're willing to learn and put the time in and listen to those who went before you. So we're very fortunate. We have a lot of young kids that come in new to the field, BMET ones. Maybe they were successful as an auto mechanic. Maybe they were successful at trade school or whatever it was. And young folks are usually pretty bold and pretty confident. HTM is a type of field though that you have to be precise. And I would encourage everyone coming in the field, young or old, to listen to those who, like yourself, have had experience, who have been there, who have understood the challenges of device repair, of preventative maintenance, of dealing with field service actions and recalls. There's so much to be learned. And unfortunately, I think it has to go both ways. I think the young have to listen to the old, and the old have to listen to the young.
Yes, sir.
So overall, I'd tell whoever's coming in and say, "Hey, this is an incredible career, but you got to look at what's been shown to you by those who've been in it for a minute, and they have to understand that." And I think with that attitude and your eyes open and willingness to learn, that a BMET one could be the CEO of a Trimedics. You never know.
Oh, sir. Now, I'm not going to ask you what advice would you give to someone who's been in the industry forever. I want you to talk to that sweet spot, that 5 to 10 year guy, because that's where it gets kind of challenging for a BMed. You got past the BMed 1, now you're a BMed 2. Getting to BMed 3 is not as easy as getting to BMed 2. So what advice would you give that BMed 2 who wants to get to that next level?
Man, that's a good one. I'd say get involved with Amy. Go to Amy Exchange. Go to MD Expo. Get involved. I think there's so many people that get so used to their vocation. You talked about this earlier, B-Hawk. They turn it off when they clock out. They clocked out, they're done. That's not their job. And I'm not saying you have to live HTM. I'm just saying be aware and be active. If this is a career that you want to advance in, say you've been in it 5 to 10 years, you get a little burned out, get a little challenged by the environment. Seek out other opportunities, not just at your job or for another job, but in this space. I mean, there's such a good community, and I see people all the time that get fulfillment from not only reaching out and seeing what else there is to offer for a job, but also what other resources there are and how you can learn from those in other areas. And a great way to do it, Amy Exchange, MD Expo, go to your local Biomed Association meetings. There's just get involved. And I think when people get in a rut, they tend to want to draw inwards. And I want to encourage them to go outwards, to go seek those who have, a lot to offer, at these places, at these meetings, at these expos.
Oh man, that's some great advice. You ever thought about being a motivational speaker, Mo?
I can barely motivate my kids to do their own laundry, so I don't know. I don't know how effective I'd be.
Well, Mark, I really, really appreciate spending this time with you, man. I mean, felt like I learned a whole lot, but I'm more than sure there's much more inside you. So you're welcome to come back whenever you feel like it. I'm glad to have you back on, and I appreciate the great things you're doing with your companies. Y'all much needed, and you are very necessary.
Well, B-Hawk, let me tell you this. One, I'd be glad for you to have my wife on anytime. She's probably more passionate about the industry than I am. And two, I want to say I really appreciate what you're doing. The book for the kids, the involvement at high school and elementary school, all the way up to what you're doing with this podcast. It's amazing for our industry. Love seeing you at the Amy Exchange and all the places. I love seeing you post online. I think it's very, very much needed, and I just appreciate all you do for our industry.
I appreciate you too, brother.
What a powerful conversation with Mark L. Taylor. He reminded us HTM is more than a job. It's a calling. It's about purpose, growth, and showing up for the lives that depend on us. Whether you're just getting started or decades in, remember, this field needs leaders like you. Stay focused, stay motivated. And as always, HTM is on the line. Y'all be safe out there.